This happened to me and my friend when we were around 16. We would always hang out or stay at each other's houses, to the point that my parents joked about making up my big brother's old room as her own. It was just me and my parents since my older brother had moved out, so we tended to hang out there more, but we did stay at her place quite a bit too. The only problem was that she didn't get along with her mom very well, so when she would come home from work and be in a bad mood, or when she just wanted to get away from her, we would walk around the neighborhood or head over to the park that was over a few blocks. It was pretty old. The playground was all metal and rusted with paint chipping away. Thinking back, I'm surprised we never got cut on any of it. Thank God for tetanus shots, though. Am I right? Anyways, the playground was pretty normal with the part you can walk up or climb up, a few slides and the bars you can swing across. There was also the swing set that had 2 normal swings and one of those baby seat swings, and then the merry-go-round that was wobbly and squeaked. It was perfect for 2 teenagers to just get away, especially since people didn't dare take their little kids there anymore. We liked to do stupid things on the swings, or just lay on our backs on the merry-go-round while we talked. It was nice and peaceful, and it gave us a sense of privacy that we needed. I also wanted to mention another place that we would go when we weren't going to the park. Typically, when we didn't want to walk that far, or if it was too hot or too cold, and that was her neighbor's house. Or rather, the guy that was about 2 houses down. We'll call him Jack. Jack was a middle-aged, quiet guy that lived alone with his dog. He kept to himself as far as I could tell, but was always very nice to us. He let my friend and I watch his dog and house sit when he was going to be gone for a few days, and he always said we were welcomed to anything in his home. Food, soda, watching movies, or things like that. It was really cool because he had a snow cone maker, so when we wanted to go somewhere that her mom wouldn't be able to find us, we would go over there, make snow cones, and watch TV. He even invited us over when we were walking by, and he offered us stuff. I remember one time we were walking, and he had just gotten home. He waved us over to help him bring some things inside, to which we helped, and then he showed us that he had just bought a SNES. So he asked if we wanted to play, and we went in and played some games, and he actually ordered pizza for us. It was a lot of fun, and I imagined we were like adults with a roommate, just chilling. Jack was actually cool, too. He never gave off any weird vibes, and actually seemed to keep his distance, too, which was appreciated. We talked to him like we were friends, telling him how school was going, gossip that we knew, people we liked, and those that we couldn't stand. So, those were our 2 getaway spots that we took advantage of often. One weekend, we wanted to stay the night together, but she wasn't allowed to go to anyone's house, so I had to stay over at her place. No big deal. I gathered my necessities and my mom dropped me off over there. We chilled for a while in her brother's room while he played games, but when he left to go to his girlfriend's house, he would lock the door and wouldn't let us in there. So we went back to her room and just listened to music while we were drawing. It wasn't long after that, though, that her mom got home from work and immediately ruined the mood. She was just flat out mean to Anna. It was usually just yelling at her, but every once in a while, I would see her smack her in the mouth or grab her by the hair to take her into the kitchen or something to do something. I know it was stupid, looking back on it now, but I never told my parents. I mentioned that she was mean, like when she yelled at her, but I never mentioned her ever being physically abusive to her. Part of that was because Anna asked me not to tell anyone either. What I didn't understand, though, was that she was never like that to her brother. She was always kind to him and gave him anything he asked for. He seemed like he understood and felt bad for the situation, too, which is why he always asked us if we wanted to hang out in his room while he was there, but still never let us in when he wasn't home. Anyways, we knew she was home because she had slammed the door shut. Shortly after, she hollered for Anna to help her with something. I sat in the room waiting for her to come back, and when she did, she looked pretty annoyed. She told me that she wanted her to do something and was complaining about it, so I volunteered to help to get it done quicker. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was something pretty stupid and mundane, like she wanted her to clean the windows or something like that. When she was mad, she always gave some random chore to do, and as she did it, she would nag and make comments about how she was always doing it wrong. So after we got started and she got started on her nagging, Anna got mad and told her that she was done. They started arguing a bit, and when she went in to smack her, she managed to duck to get out of the way, so her mom yelled at us to leave. We couldn't go to my house, but yet she still wanted us out. So we grabbed a few things like our little speaker and MP3 player and a flashlight and walked out. It was starting to get dark, so we decided to walk down to the park for a few hours to cool off. We got there, and we swung for a bit. Anna cried and practically cursed her mom for a few, and then we got back into high spirits talking about other things. Thankfully, it wasn't long before we were goofing off on the merry-go-round and laughing again. As mentioned, it was uncommon for us to run into other people there, especially at night. So when we saw a car pull up and just sit there for a while, we were suspicious. Anna thought it was probably someone that had called the cops since we were being loud, so we started getting up and gathering our stuff when we heard someone get out of the car and heard a familiar voice. As he approached, we noticed that it was Jack. He greeted us, and we did the same, immediately feeling at ease again. He sat next to us and asked us what we were doing out here. Anna said we were just chilling, waiting for her mom to leave or to go back to bed to go back home. As we talked for a while with him, joking around, something was brought up about a guy that I liked. When that was mentioned, Jack made a pouty face and said something about, don't tell me you have your eyes set on someone else now." We both chuckled, and Anna mentioned the guy a little more, and Jack seemed like he was trying to one-up everything that she said. She mentioned that he had longer hair, and Jack said, "I'd grow mine out for you." She said he had his permit, and then he said, "I already have my own car." Things like that. Then she mentioned that he had his lip pierced, and Jack said, "I have a piercing too." We both had spent enough time around him to know that he did not. So, being the naive girls that we were, we both kind of started giggling and said, "No, you don't." And he said, "Of course I do. You girls just can't see it from where you are." Again, not thinking much of it, Anna asked where. He then got this grin that actually made me feel uncomfortable and said, "Well, I'd have to take my pants off." And then he winked at us. I could tell Anna was a bit uncomfortable too, but she just kind of laughed and said, "Ew, no thanks." He then laughed, and as we sat there awkwardly silent for a few moments, he finally broke the silence saying, "I always thought you girls were too cute for your age, like dangerously so." This grown man really just said this to us. We just sat there not knowing what to say or how to react. Thankfully, he stood up and said, "I should get going, but if we wanted to come back to his place for some fun, we were always welcome." and then headed back to his car. Once we heard the car door shut, I turned to Anna and asked what the hell that was. Jack was never like that before, and now I didn't think I would ever feel comfortable around him. We sat there for a while waiting for him to leave, as we were nervous to even walk past him. It was probably 15 minutes or so, and he was still sitting there, lights off, so we decided to leave and made a plan in case he tried anything else. Unfortunately, the park was fenced in, so there was only one way to really enter and exit, unless you wanted to climb the fence. And we weren't trying to make it look obvious that we were avoiding him. So, as we started walking by the parking lot, we walked along the edge and looked over to see him staring right at us. He didn't move, he didn't smile or wave, he just stared. We finally got out of there and headed right back to her place. Thankfully, her mom was already passed out, so we snuck back into her room and, again, tried to relax and talk about what the hell had just happened. Unfortunately, that would not be the end of it, though. It was either the next day or the day after, while I was over at her place, Anna's mom had come into the room yelling about Jack, and how we weren't allowed to go over there anymore. At that point, we had no intentions of ever talking to him again, but we were curious and asked why. She said someone had called the cops due to suspicious people in the park screaming, and they saw a car there for several hours with their lights off. When the cops showed up, they found Jack in his car, pants down, with a picture of us that Anna had given him some time ago. It was one of the pictures that we took for our yearbook. She yelled at us saying that was stupid of us, and that we weren't allowed to even go to the park alone either. I did tell my parents too, which led to us having to explain why we even went there at night alone in the first place. They already knew about Jack as well, and had even met him and didn't really think much of it. They also agreed though, and they didn't want us there alone anymore, thinking nothing good was going to come from it anyways, which we didn't hesitate. Anna wanted to be here more anyways. We never saw Jack again after that, but we did learn when we were older by looking him up that he had gone to jail a few times for similar crimes, so we unfortunately weren't the only ones targeted. Last I checked though, he was locked up for a few years, so I hope that we, nor any other girl, has to ever run into that creep again.